Okay, good evening, everybody. I just want to welcome you to the quarterly membership meeting for Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. We have quite a bit of material to cover tonight, so we'll try to move along quickly. The library does want us out before 8 o'clock. We learned that last month or last quarterly meeting, but they want to get home as well. So we'll make sure we wrap up, and we got to break all this equipment down. So we'll definitely be breaking a little bit earlier than normal. So my name's Tim Keyports. I'm the current president. And that's the agenda for tonight. Give you a chance to take a look at that. We do have representatives from FDOT. They're going to give us an update on I-275. So Matt, Greg, and Melissa are in the back of the room. Matt will be coming up here in just a minute. The Southeast Seminole Heights Stormwater Project, it's not a presentation, but I wanted to point out a few interesting aspects of that project. The All for Transportation update by Kevin O'Hare. That's the 1% sales tax that's going to be coming up for vote. We're going to talk about getting the vote out in a minute. We will be doing our elections tonight. So the current board will be turning over. We do that every year. That'll be run by Mo O'Brien. And then Theo's here to talk to us about all the exciting things she's been working on in her committee, Green Space and Beautification. So first, let's talk about voting. So many of you probably already have voted. I've voted, or at least it's on my dining room table. I've ticked my boxes off. I just haven't gotten it to the post office yet. But I also want to point out, and I'd forgotten about this, early voting. So if you don't want to go on November 8th, you can go to multiple locations. I just put one up there. That is one of the closest locations on MLK at the Blythe Andrews Public Library. So it's just south of here. So if you want to vote in that window, again, you can go online. There's a great website up there for you. I know Larry asked a bunch of questions last time we met in July. How do you know that you're on the ballot rolls? How do you register to get a ballot in the mail? That website's fantastic. The other thing I want to do is the only person in the room that is running, unless I'm mistaken, is Alan Clenenden. You've, I guess, met the majority of the people in the room at this point, Alan? Okay, if you want to stand up and just for a couple of minutes, we always let anybody that's running or is a elected official just give them a few minutes to tell us what their platform is all about.
So I'll turn it over to you for just a minute. Sure. Very informal because my election's actually not until March 7th. And I definitely encourage you to take advantage of early voting. Nice thing is that you're sitting on lines. And if you have an absentee ballot, you haven't mailed it yet, you can carry it to that early voting location and swap it in and vote on the spot, which is really nice. And speaking of absentee ballots, anybody that's an absentee ballot request, after this election, they expire, so you have to re-up. So you have to go to that same website I just referred to you and ask for another absentee ballot, which would be applicable for the election that I'm running in, which is March 7th. That's the city elections. That's when we elect a mayor, we elect city council. And I'm running for Tampa City Council District 1, which is a citywide seat. So people have asked, am I in your district? Yes, if you live in the city of Tampa, definitely if you live in Old Seminole Heights, you would be in the district and you'd be eligible to vote for me. There's currently an incumbent in that district, and I don't know if you've been paying attention to city council, but it's kind of a mess. And there's a lot of things happening on there that, there's a lot of things about Tampa I'm very proud of. I love the city of Tampa. I chose to live here 35 years ago and raise my family here. And it's just an incredible place to be, and we deserve a government that is equal to that. I spent 30 plus years as an air traffic controller. I was an air traffic controller, finished my career at Tampa International for the last 18 years or so. I was a manager at Tampa International. I managed the floor operation, managed the air traffic controllers, managed the Sarasota Bradenton operation, managed the Clearwater St. Pete operation at some point. I was managed multi-million-dollar budgets, highly complex programs. I was on development teams for air traffic for both local and national programs. So I've got a lifetime experience of diverse experience. I run a business. I run rental properties, so I know what it's like to run a business as well. I will tell you, if you compare my resume to my opponent's resume, you will see that it's apples and oranges. And I think it's fine that I'm infinitely more qualified to sit on city council and deal with the issues that we're dealing with. I'll be a neighborhood person on city council. I will make sure that I protect neighborhoods from unnecessary disruptions and changing the character, because what makes Tampa so unique are all of these these neighborhoods. It's places like Old Seminole Heights and East Seminole Heights and Ybor City and West Tampa, and that's what makes us unique. We're not anywhere in USA. It's one of the reasons why, and this is not my political speech, I will tell you this is the honest bad truth. As air traffic controller, I can live anywhere in the country that has an airport. But I chose to live in Tampa because of what Tampa was and how it felt, and the diversity of Tampa, the neighborhoods, that it was multicultural, that it was mostly multilingual, and I love that about that, and that's what I wanted to raise my kids in a city that was like that. And I think I will fight to ensure that we maintain that type of lifestyle, that type of quality of life, so that when we go home, we don't go home to ticky-tack and stucco and infill, that we have very distinctive places to live and that we still enjoy that quality of life. And anything that threatens that, I'll make sure that I will be the city council person that will stand up and fight for that. So again, it's not until March 7th, so I'm sure I'm going to have an opportunity to talk to you guys again. But I'm going to stick around because mostly why I'm here tonight is not for you to listen to me, but I want to actually hear what's happening in the neighborhood so that I can be more informed. So when I become your city council person, I can make better decisions for on city council. So thank you. I'll stick around and hopefully if you guys have questions later on, I'll be happy to answer them. But thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
And for the folks that just came in, again, Tampa Bay Federal Credit Union's in the back. That is our partner bank. We've been using them for a lot longer than I've been around. I know that Jeffrey, as our treasurer's had tremendous support from them. So stop by and see Natalia if you get a chance. Next up is I-275. So Matt, if you want to come up, do you want me to drive the slides for you? Microphones. Finally got a new system.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Tim. Good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Lewis. I am a consultant for FDOT, and I am the senior project engineer for the I-275 capacity improvement projects. As you can see on the slides, the limits are basically just north of I-4, kind of the Columbus area, up to Hanna. I'm sure most of you guys know where Hanna is, just north of Hillsborough Avenue. It is a 1,200-day project, which we actually just hit 1 year anniversary yesterday. So we've been out here for a year. The contractor is Lane Construction, and the primary goal of the project is to widen the area, or excuse me, widen the corridor from the outside, and then also to provide one lane in each direction, more than's there now. So there'll be 4 total lanes. And we're also reconstructing the on and off ramps, which I'm sure you've seen these driving through. Right now, we're currently in phase 1. Actually, let me back up. This is an $85 million project. And as I mentioned, we're on basically 1 year. Currently, we're in phase 1. We have drainage improvements going on. We have sign foundations going on, the big overhead signs. We have retaining walls, which is what you see in the picture to the upper right. Those are going on all along the northbound side currently. We have bridge beam installations. The bridges are being widened just to the outside, obviously not to the inside, but we just had our first beam set at Osborne, which is right across the way here. We had that on Tuesday night on the northbound side, and the next will follow is Nebraska, and then they're going to jump to Lake after that. So there'll be some more superstructure going on, as we call it, coming up in the next few months. All the dates there that you see are based on their current schedule. Those can change based on any potential issues or weather days that come up, but things are going really well out there right now. So that's pretty much what you'll see. So next slide, please. Thank you. So specifically, I'll kind of talk about each individual spot. So again, Nebraska, Lake, MLK, Chelsea, up to Hillsborough and Osborne. Right now, and I'm going to work back to the south here. Hillsborough Avenue, we've got some slope grading. All the quadrants of the interchange are being constructed and reconstructed. So there's all 4 corners are going on. We've had some minor traffic shifts recently on the temporary ramps. You may not have even noticed it. Honestly, they're fairly short and they're not too terribly lengthy. Bridge widening, we have foundations going through the end of this year. And then again, the beam erection there on the northbound should begin at Hillsborough in the early spring of 2023. Maybe if somebody's got a question, I don't mind taking a question. Sure. Did someone have one? I didn't see you. Yes, sir. I don't believe so. I don't think that's in the plan, but I don't know the correct answer, but I do have the resident engineer, Greg Deese, with us here, as well as Melissa Chin, our project manager. And Greg, I don't know, do you know if that's part of that? Okay, thank you. Any others? Okay.
So we just as a reminder, we are trying to do this simulcast with Zoom participants. So we do have a microphone. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. Jeffrey will bring you the mic. Otherwise, the people on the Zoom land are not going to know what the question is, or you can restate it, however that works for you.
Oh, okay, for sure. Yeah. Okay, Chelsea Street. Again, bridge widening is expected early in the year 2023. Right now, they're working on a lot of the underpass work that's going on. It's really, not a major interchange or anything, no off ramps or anything like that. MLK, a little bit more major interchange. Drill shaft foundations are complete. Those were completed about a month ago. Again, on all the ramps, we do kind of have some new traffic patterns there to watch out for. And then we'll be working on those on the northbound side through the spring of 23. Permanent wall installation on the underpasses, which is more of a cutback to allow for more pedestrian access, is going on. And then also bridge widening through early 23. You'll mostly see the bridge widening going on and some of the wall installations, and then more of the sidewalk to follow that, just because if there's anything overhead, they don't want to work on, they might have crane positions and things that in equipment that they don't want to crush any of the sidewalk with. So you'll kind of see that. So next slide. And again, Lake Avenue, it's almost a repetitive type of job. A beam erection there on northbound side through November 2022, which I mentioned a minute ago. And then also the underpass work that resumes upon that completion. And again, Florabraska. Florabraska is a little bit unique. Only the northbound side gets widened for the bridge, and then the southbound does not. And again, that'll be going on through the northbound section, and then they're going to turn kind of back around and go on the southbound side. There was a question about pedestrian lighting and underdeck lighting along the corridor in this area, and we put together this slide to kind of illustrate what's existing now and in the upgrades it'll be. So it'll be much more lit when we're done, and a little bit more pedestrian friendly. So you can see at each of the locations existing light fixtures. And all of these locations are basically going to stay the same. We're going to add new LED fixtures, and we're going to actually upgrade the existing ones. The only little caveat is Florabraska, and I've got a little asterisk there. Those are actually the current existing ones are right over the top of the road, and they're going to be moved away from there and then put up against what we call the pier cap. So if you look at this picture here, they'll be kind of put right here. Right now, they're currently kind of hanging from the beams. So we're just basically going to put them up against the pier cap. There was also recently a community survey, and I think hopefully most of you guys participated in. And there were some questions about preferred space use as well as preferred fencing type at these underpasses. So at MLK and Hillsborough, as I mentioned, there's a big cutback under the bridges. So you're going to have a little bit more pedestrian space. City of Tampa is also going to have some nice stamps that they're going to put on the sidewalks that will represent more of the community. And so this was the fence type that was preferred. I think it's called flat top picket. The other stuff I'm not super involved with, so I don't know in terms of the community space. I think that might be something that comes down the road.
For those who participate, we had this survey on our website for quite a while, actually. I just want to point out, this is so much better than changing things. And I know it's a slow evolution, right? It's a big deal, but just to go from a chain link fence to this, the other option was a spiked fence all the way at the top, and I think most people recognize that was just going to catch plastic bags. So this being smooth hopefully that's what everybody in the room voted for, and you recognize the value of that. The thing is, this is at the top. You're going to see here in a minute. This isn't at the pedestrian height. It's well above them. So I'm excited about the other options to put a dog park near the highway. And that's a very high demand item. So hopefully you all did take advantage of that survey.
Right. Yeah, good point. And as Tim was saying, this is kind of an overall view of the corridor. So from the downtown interchange up to the north at Hillsborough here on the right side of the page, at these intersections are the ones where we're going to have the fence and the underpass. So the ones listed there above, the ones that are actually part of this project, Florabraska, Lake, Chelsea, and Osborne, and then also MLK and Hillsborough will have, again, that full cutback. And I think the next slide is the one that will actually show. Yeah, this is it. So as it says here, this is a representation of Osborne and then Florabraska that obviously look pretty similar except for the wall texture and treatment. So they've cut back this section here already. The toe used to come all the way, the slope used to come all the way down. So they've cut that back. We're actually going to extend the wall about 3 feet higher and then put the fence on top. The drawing is, again, just a rendering, but it's going to be pretty close to the bottom of the beam, bottom of the bridge. Just so everyone is clear on what we're presenting here. So this next one,
Tim.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't.
I believe the survey also asked about what would we like as far as the walls, as far as the brick walls or the different designs. Can you tell what the outcome of that was from the survey?
I actually don't know the answer to that. Greg or Melissa, do you guys know the outcome of that?
Yeah, we're trying to either match the aesthetic that was already there, or for the project to the south that Matt's talking about. There was some voting. I don't think we're completely done with it yet, but we'll seek community input for that sort of thing.
Good question. This next one is a little bit of a slide. I think there were some questions just in general about the downtown interchange at I-275 and I-4. I'm actually not directly involved with that, but I know enough to be dangerous. We obviously are going to connect as a project. So I've got a little bit of information. Again, the active contractor is the same as the contractor for this corridor, Lane Construction. It's anticipated that they're going to start construction in early 2023. It's what they call a design build project. So they're actually designing it right now. Again, that's evaluating. One of the things they're looking at is fewer detours, and they've got a new bridge that they're going to propose over from southbound 275 to eastbound I-4. And there are more community engagement meetings planned for that project. So be on the lookout for that.
Just want to also point out this hyperlink. If you haven't yet registered, I'm going to keep beating Southeast Summer Heights Project, the FDOT hyperlink. If you really want to know what's going on with these projects, and they put out information sometimes weekly, those alerts are very handy. Pops up in your inbox. You can read it if you're not interested, but a lot of times you'll find out, oh, Hillsborough is going to be closed tonight or for the next week. Nebraska is going to be closed next month for 9 weeks. I mean, if you're not registering, you're not going to know about that until you're trying to head to Ella's and you've gone the wrong way, as an example.
Yeah, I think one of the slides we have coming up has a big QR code. So if you guys want to get your cameras out, you can take a picture of it if you'd like, or you can just go there at your leisure. There was another question about City of Tampa public art. This is, it'll be included at, like I said, Hillsborough and Osborne. There's stamps that are they've created that they're going to put in imprints into the sidewalk that represent East Tampa and Seminole Heights. And then there'll be, I think, some early public comment opportunities on that in early 23 as well. I think that's all.
Shirley, back to your question. This was a question that we've asked. Why were we not allowed to provide input on the public art? So this is your answer right here. The segments that are already further along, the ones that were over in Ybor, the ones that are in the downtown area, and then the one that's going in West Shore, they already had their public input session. So it's because they weren't ready. Yeah, so that's why that's up there, the second bullet. So very likely they'll be here at this location asking for input. City of Tampa will be here to listen to you as to what you want on those walls. So again, the walls are Hillsborough and MLK, and there's still a push for some additional art on some of the other lesser traveled underpasses like Osborne, et cetera.
Great point. Yes, sir.
Make it easier to get the graffiti off the walls.
So, in a nutshell, when we leave the project, since we won't be a part of that, most of the stain is actually what we put on concrete now. There is an anti-graffiti coating that goes on, but I got to check to see if it goes on these walls, because typically they get put on some of the sign structures and some of the other walls that we build. But I don't know about that, only because the art could come later.
Right.
And it may inhibit or prohibit the art being put on. So
Yeah, because the reason I'm asking, because I mean, that can get expensive. You know,
Sure.
having to have a crew go out there every other week and, you know, pressure wash and, you know, especially the city spending money to put art, you know, somewhere, then chances are it's going to run the risk of getting messed up.
Sure, I'll take a look to see what our contract documents have, and then we can also follow up with the city to see if they have any plans to work with the DOT on that. Unless, Greg, do you have any idea? Okay.
Okay, I got one more question since I've got the mic, you know, then that'll wrap it up. With these improvements and the money that's being poured into it and the likelihood of wrong way drivers going up the wrong way on the interstate, is there any intention of putting more, I don't want to say barriers, but, you know, kind of preventative measures to, you know, to kind of highlight people, you know, going up the wrong ramps and such as that? I mean, a drunk person's going to do what a drunk person does, but is there any money in that budget, you know, for something like that?
So what part of the project right now is, and something the DOT started doing a few years ago, is actually increasing the size of the signs in terms of do not enter, or, putting the arrows on pavement, arrows on the ground with what they call RPMs, the reflective markers. We don't have any plans. I don't know if this corridor has any of the electronic. I don't think we currently have any on these ramps, but I don't know if there's any plans to put any of that. But we definitely are putting in is the final striping and signing, as we call it. That will be something that gets put in as part of this project. It's almost a standard now with almost every project, at least in the Tampa Bay area, for sure. Great question. Anything to add, Greg? Okay.
So when we do get to the point of the public input, that's a great idea. I mean, like a wax coating on that very expensive mural, because you're right, underneath Hillsborough, MLK, it's very likely we are starting to see an uptick. And that's fine, it's gonna happen, and the city's very good, they're very responsible. What they come out with is great paint and they cover it up. So you don't want that on top of a very expensive art installation. I'm going to go ahead and talk to this one real quick. Mauricio, who's our Highways and Byways Committee Chair, he's been pushing really hard on FDOT to pay for a sidewalk on Tyler Farrow, which is the road immediately to the east here. And that's to enable the community that's to the south to be able to get to work centers along Hillsborough and other locations. The answer was basically that's not an FDOT responsibility. It's not in their budget. So we now know who in the city we need to engage with, and that's Mr. Hardy, and Mauricio has been working on that with Mr. Hardy. So again, if you're a sidewalk walker, it's important. If you don't, sometimes we just zip around in our cars and we forget about people that need to be safely on a sidewalk or riding a bike on the sidewalk.
I think she had another question, if you don't mind. So they're already kind of headed that way. With, you've probably seen some on the slopes and all, and what they're doing is putting in temporary walls. So some of the walls, in order to have the new walls go in, they have to put in temporary walls, and they're the ones that look like wood that are kind of stacked like Lincoln logs on top of each other. So they're kind of already headed south that direction. In fact, I think they're done with the one here at Osborne, and they're down at MLK, all the way to MLK.
Along 275, when are they heading southbound along 275?
With the beam and the rest of the
Sound
widening,
walls, retaining walls?
you'll start to see some more of that in the springtime.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was thinking sometimes I get too much into the details.
So here's the QR code again. grab your phone if you want. It's, as you know, we do record these meetings. It'll be on our YouTube channel later this week after Tim works his magic. So,
Well, that's good if somebody wants them.
Yeah, we can pass those out as well.
okay, looks like everybody had a camera. Got it. So just a quick reminder, go ahead with the.
Yeah, again, this is just to bring awareness. We try to do this every chance we get with DOT projects and honestly, any construction project, no matter who the owner, but be aware, the workers, they have families, their brothers, sisters, mothers, dads, everything. So when you're driving through a work zone, obey the speed limits that are posted, and it really helps out and makes everybody feel a lot more comfortable. So I think that might have been the last one. So I really appreciate the opportunity again. Yes, sir. Do you have a question? Yes, sir. There are. It's and I'm sorry. There are. It's further down the road, and Greg may be able to speak to more of that schedule. I'm actually just not sure of that right now.
Planning. How far is the planning at this point? Because we live in the northeast section, so we're past Hannah. So do you know how far it's going up? Planning.
Yeah, and you may be able to, if you go to the website that's on the card, I think there's TB Next information it's kind of what that's part of. So you'll be able to find a little bit more. They're color coded segments. I know that. So sure. Great
Any
question.
other questions? All right, Matt, thank you very much. And the other folks that are here, appreciate you coming out at night. I know you work all day long, so thanks for helping us better understand this project. This is not the ideal setup tonight. I'm going to stand over here for a second. So just, I want to point out that Tim, Charlene, who's the president of South Seminole Heights, Ellie, who is the president of Southeast Seminole Heights, and myself on Friday morning met with Nelson Construction, who is working on the Southeast Seminole Heights Stormwater Relief Project. Wonderful title. So I finally asked, why are we doing this project? And they actually had a great answer. The two green dotted lines that are in the upper left are the current stormwater outflow lines. So they go basically from Seminole Heights to the river. That's me. I threw that in there 2 hours ago. They don't even have a map that shows that. What the new green line that's on Crest is going to do is basically double the volume of water that can flow out of our neighborhoods, plural, to the river. So I pointed out that that's a very important fact that nobody has really brought up to this point. We're not going to go into a lot of detail because tomorrow night at Hillsborough High School at 6 o'clock, they're doing a community meeting. So anybody in the room here is welcome to attend that. It's for the entire community. So all the other neighborhoods have been invited as well. All of the reps from Nelson, who is the prime for this project, will be there. The city, as I understand it, will be there. So hopefully they will have a chart like this that's not Tim Keeport's, PowerPoint. It'll actually show, because I don't know if it's on Hannah and Henry or where exactly the outfalls are, but those are old, original stormwater outfalls. They're clogged. At the riverside, they're very low. So at high tide, they're basically at the level of the water. That's why if you go to Crest and you go to the end of Crest and you see the outfall, it sits up well above the high tide level of the Hillsborough River. And it's got the baffle box with the trash prevention, right? And I know a lot of you have asked those questions when they were here in July. We don't want trash flowing directly into the river. The old baffle lines or stormwater lines, as I understand it, don't have that system in place. So the other piece of why is this chart, which is also not seen very often. So everything in blue here on the left is water that pools heavily when it rains. Most of you probably have seen that when you've been driving your car, right? Within 2 or 3 hours of a heavy downpour, that's what happens. The big blue blob, that's Lake Roberta, where Hampton Terrace is located. But if you look in the bottom here in Southeast Seminole Heights, you see that there's a lot of flooding that's going on. This is on the right side after the project is going to be complete. So of course, Lake Roberta is still there, but it's not going to overflow its banks like it regularly does after a heavy rain for anybody that's tried to drive around there. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better. Charlene asked an excellent question about the project does not go north on Florida, north of Hillsborough along Florida Avenue. Anybody that's driven on that road after a heavy rain, you have to drive in the middle or the left lane because the right lane's underwater. So she asked that question and they said, if you look at this chart, there's very little there that's flooding on Florida Avenue. Okay, this is their forecast because again, they're doubling the volume of water that they can get off the road. Right now, the water just has no place to go. So it sort of makes sense, right? So sometimes it's good for a citizen to ask those kinds of questions and better understand why we've been suffering for over 2 years now on Central. Again, go tomorrow night. They're going to talk about when they're going to start north of Hillsborough on Central, which is next month. And it's going to be about 1.5 years that they're going to have that section ripped up. Nebraska Avenue, we found out on Friday, is going to be closed for, I think they said 9 weeks. So just like Florida Avenue was closed for twice now, for about 3 or 4 weeks and then 5 weeks, they have to close Nebraska for an extended period. They can give you all the ins and outs. I'm not on the project, but just be aware it's an ongoing project. So on that happy note, Kevin, I think you're here, right? So Kevin, why don't you come on up? I'll let you use this microphone. He's going to give us an update on the 1% sales tax.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to look over my shoulder here. Like Tim said, my name is Kevin O'Hare. I'm with All for Transportation. Just a quick show of hands. How many folks have heard of All for Transportation? Okay, great. So I will not spend a lot of time talking about the origin story, but put a short part. All for Transportation started in 2016 with a simple goal to give citizens the ability to vote and decide on their transportation here in Hillsborough County. It was born out of 2016. If you remember, Go Hillsborough was a failed sales tax referendum that was not put on the ballot. And really a group of folks like myself got together and said, we should let voters decide on how transportation should be decided in Hillsborough County. So in 2018, we went and put on the ballot a 1 cent sales tax transportation plan. So it wasn't just a penny sales tax, but it was a plan that went along with that, a balanced approach to solving our transportation crisis here in Hillsborough County, which I'm sure all of you are very familiar with if you've been stuck in traffic, waiting on a bus, or dealing with, unfortunate safety issues and such as tragic deaths and accidents that happen on our roads on a continuous basis. You can go to the next slide. So I could talk a little bit about, why our community needs this funding. Simply put, Hillsborough County has a $13 billion backlog in road infrastructure improvements, and that's countywide, so both in the city and in the county. These backlogs are persistent when it comes to sidewalk repairs, basic road infrastructure improvements, basic repaving, and again, like this is plaguing our community all over the county. This plan here in Hillsborough County that's back on your ballot now for 2022, it raises it's a 1 cent sales tax increase. It raises $240 million every single year that goes towards transportation improvements. And if you go to the next slide, you can see just the impact of that funding. So this is a chart here that breaks down per capita spending on transportation, both with and without AFT funding. And when you think of the referendum, it's a balanced approach to how to solve our transportation crisis. It's not a full penny towards roads, a full penny towards buses. It's a balanced approach towards both. And we have a lot of problems here in Hillsborough County, a lot of challenges. You can see here the dark blue line represents AFT funding in comparison to cities like Minneapolis, Seattle, and Charlotte when it comes to bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, transit infrastructure, and also safe streets such as complete streets and other safety improvements here in Hillsborough County. We've been ranked pretty high in terms of fatalities and deaths nationwide. In fact, it was last year in 2021 that Hillsborough County had more road traffic fatalities than New York City. So when you look at those, it's a pretty stark contrast to how bad the problem is in Hillsborough County. Next slide. And we're growing. We continue to grow here. I mean, Seminole Heights is one example. A lot of folks started to move back into the city right after the Great Recession, and now you see that just completely ballooning after the pandemic. Over 100,000 folks have moved here in the last 4 years since the referendum in 2018, and 700,000 more folks will move here in the next 30 years. So we will continue to grow. The secret's out. Tampa's great. It's a great place to live, work, and play. No matter where you go, you're seeing new folks moving here each and every day. Folks want to live in this city. They want to live in the county. They want to live in a community and thrive here. But what continues to hold us back is our transportation challenges. Next slide. So like I said, the AFT plan is a balanced approach to solving our transportation crisis. The referendum on your ballot is 54% investing in roads and safety. And you can see here that's broken down into a couple of different categories. And that's split up amongst Hillsborough County and the 3 cities that are incorporated within Hillsborough County. So the city of Tampa, Temple Terrace, and Plant City all receive dedicated funds to go towards basic road improvements, and that goes towards chipping away at that $13 billion backlog annually. 45% goes to HART for expanded transit options. Hillsborough County has one of the lowest funded mass transit systems in the country. Our funding is on par with Macon, Georgia. How many of folks have been or familiar with Macon, Georgia? It's also the home of the Allman Brothers Band, for those of you who know your music. And also the same quality of bus as Hillsborough County. So we have a lot of ground to cover. So 45% goes towards expanding our bus network. This funding would also double bus routes overnight. It would allow for every 60-minute route in Hillsborough County to go to 30 minutes and every 30-minute route to go to 15. If you are a bus rider, you might remember Mission Max in 2021. HART cut a lot of funding for a lot of its bus routes, a lot of frequency. This would reverse Mission Max, which is a huge lifeline to folks who depend on the bus to get around the county. And then 0.5% goes towards planning and oversight, because if you've ever fixed your house, whether it's a roof, whether it's renovation, you have to plan to spend a lot of money. So that 0.5% goes to the Hillsborough Transportation Planning Organization to help finance plans and also strategic thinking on how to spend this revenue over the course of the lifespan of the referendum. Next slide. And this is just a little bit more on that 54% that goes towards road infrastructure. You can see here, maintenance, fixing potholes, resurfacing and operating, things like potholes. I mean, we have a huge backlog of just repaving, taking care of what we already have built here in Hillsborough County. Right now, I think the statistic is, if I remember off the top of my head, 1 mile, we're only able to replace every mile of our roads every 30 years. This would cut that in half to 15. So right now, if you're on a road and it's just paved, that road will not be touched again for 30 years. With this, it will bring it back up to standards for road repavement. Safety and crash reduction. Yeah, like I said, we have a huge issue with safety on our roads, whether it's right turns or unsafe intersections or crosswalks not lit, or I think someone brought up drunk drivers getting on the I-275. We have a huge safety problem here in Hillsborough County. And things as simple as lighting, paint, also reducing speed, narrowing roads make a huge difference in terms of bringing that down. And then of course, walking, biking, and active transportation. We have a growing bicycle grid that's growing here in Hillsborough County, especially here in the city of Tampa. We also have a number of trails out in the county that continue to be growing. I grew up in East County. I'm a Plant City guy. And this would provide a large amount of funding towards accessible bike trails and nature trails out in this county that just haven't been built yet. So next slide. Transit solutions, again, we're a growing metropolitan area, and we have the same level of funding as Macon, Georgia. So it's about time we bring ourselves back up to speed. First and foremost, fixing what we have. Our bus network is our bread and butter. It helps get folks around the city, is woefully underfunded. So this 45% would go to HART to first off expand our bus network, and again, bring those frequencies way down, and also expand our route coverage throughout the entire county. And then of course, maintain current service at the level that we have and expand upon it. We know that transit ridership is relatively low in comparison to population here in Hillsborough County, but we also know that's because it's not accessible to folks. Every day folks make a decision on how they get around the county, and quite frankly, they take their car because there is no other viable option. You have to wait an hour for a bus, and you're trying to get to work. If you miss that bus, you're late to work, and guess what? You're fired if you happen to do that too often. So again, taking care of what we have and expanding our transit options. Next slide. And safety is a huge issue here in Hillsborough County. I think last year we had over 77 folks in serious crashes here in Hillsborough County that died or were maimed during just basically driving around the county. Crashes are an unfortunate byproduct of a lack of safety funding here in Hillsborough County. And with AFT funding, we would be the largest, we have the largest dedicated funding source of transportation for safety in the Southeast. So more than Charlotte, more than Atlanta, more than Austin, more than Nashville, more than Orlando, more than Miami, we would be #1 in safety funding. And that has a real impact. It's avoiding 140,000 traffic accidents over the course of the referendum, 55,000 vehicle injuries, and over 1,100 lives. That's the reality of funding and safety. So, next slide.
That is your last slide.
Oh, cool. All right.
I'm just kidding. You actually do have one more slide, but I'm gonna hold it back for a second.
Yeah, happy to answer any
Does anybody have
questions.
any questions? I would say this crowd is probably very active and supportive of the sales tax. That's great, but please tell your friends because the vote is coming up next month, at the beginning of the month, and there really has not been a lot of buzz. There's a Facebook group called AFT Activators, All for Transportation Activators. There's not a lot of people on that Facebook page. So if you have an interest in learning more or things that were just mentioned, you know, it's going to take everybody talking to their neighbors and their friends to get to that 54% pass rate last time. And we all know that we've got recession, inflation, a lot of people are pulling back, i.e. the Hillsborough County sales tax failed when it was on the ballot recently. So I'm concerned this is not going to pass.
I saw on the news a couple weeks ago that this referendum was blocked by the judges. Has that changed? Because I've not heard any updates on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that. And for those of you who don't know what she's referencing, so on October 10th, there was a lawsuit about a month prior to that was filed against the referendum. On October 10th, a judge here in Hillsborough County sided with the plaintiff in that case and ruled that the sales tax was unconstitutional. The grounds by that was, you know, a legal reading that essentially says that the word including makes the language confusing. And because the word including is too much of a burden for voters to decide, that it's an unfair question and thus should be taken off the ballot. Hillsborough County did appeal that ruling. So as of right now on your ballot, you will notice that the referendum is still there. They're not going to reprint ballots. It's too expensive. But right now you can vote and your vote will count towards the referendum. If the judge rules that the stay, because once you appeal, it essentially stops the judge's motion from going into play. If the judge does rule that the referendum will not go forward in the election, then the SOE will notify voters ahead of time of that. But as of right now, you can vote on the referendum. You can vote yes. You can encourage your neighbors to vote yes. Like Tim said, it's a very important referendum, but those also want to be transparent on kind of the legal status of it right now. So great question.
Was that, I read that 3 times because it was very confusing to me. Literally the word including is in the language. And there was a person who said, that's confusing to me. And she filed a lawsuit, you know, because it's including town and country. It's including other parts of Hillsborough County. Yes, because we're all one county. But that was what the lawsuit was about. And so you're correct. County commissioners did appeal that, but we don't have enough time to get this solved. That's why, of course, it's going to be on the ballot. The real question is, if it's upheld, we won't know what that vote was. Alan Flanagan, the gentleman that does the actual count, is that? No, I'm sorry, Alan.
No.
Craig Latimer.
Craig Latimer is the SOE. Yes, supervisor of elections.
Your card is right here in front of me. That's why I said that. But Craig Latimer, I spoke to him and he said, basically, if it's upheld the second time, the vote still gets counted. They just won't reveal what the count is. So whether it was 64%, it was 38% for, you know what I'm saying? So it's frustrating. Bottom line, please vote.
And one thing I will add, Tim, there is that, you know, in Hillsborough County, not like your Florida constitutional amendments, it's a simple majority to pass a referendum in Hillsborough County for the county, not for the state. So you can have 50+1 votes and it would still pass In 2018, obviously the same referendum with the same exact language passed with 57% of the vote, overall majority. But yeah, great question there. Yes,
Do you have any idea what they're going to do or how they're going to pay it back or whatever what they collected from 2018 to 2021?
great question. So what the gentleman's referencing here is in 2018, referendum was passed, and then there was a lawsuit filed by Commissioner Stacey White against the referendum. 2 years of legal battles ensued. During that time, the referendum, the sales tax was on your bills, it was on your purchases, and it was collected, but it was not spent as they wanted to kind of clear up the legal challenges before any of that was happened. Went to the Florida Supreme Court in February of 2021. The Supreme Court struck down the referendum. The revenue was put into essentially a savings account. So it's been sitting in the savings account ever since. The Supreme Court sent it back down to the court here in Hillsborough County to ask them to come up with a resolution. And the lower court here decided that the revenue will be spent in Hillsborough County on transportation and will be given back to the county commissioners once the next budget is approved in Tallahassee. So because the state collects sales tax revenue, not the county, the revenue is sitting in a bank account in Tallahassee. So that revenue, we know by a judge's order, is guaranteed to come back to Hillsborough County to be spent on the voters' original intent of transportation. So as to when that will come back, the last estimate that I heard is during this next legislative session. Florida legislature only meets for 60 days a year. And that starts in, I believe, February of this year, February, March. And committee weeks usually start before that, as soon as November. So we could start to see some headway as to when that revenue will come back. And again, it's around 580 million. And I think because of the interest on the bank account, it's up to, I think, close to 600 million. So the money is accruing interest rapidly. So we'll expect to have some more resolution about that hopefully soon. But the good news is that it will come back and it will be spent on its original intent. Great question. Any other questions?
All right, terrific update. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, now the good stuff. So every year we do elections. Mo, if you want to come on up. You have that look on your face like, what? I only have 5. So Mo is our elections chair. We've got 9 different committees, I think. Some of them are standing committees, like Theo is our green space chair. I've done the home tour. Home tour is not year round, thank God. So it's not a standing committee. It goes away and then it revives itself every year. Mo is the elections chair. And again, that's one of those committees that we form up about 3 months in advance. And then we dissolve it at the end of that period because there's no reason to have Mo working 12 months out of the year, right? So anyway, that's your current OSHNA board, 21 to 22. Those 9 folks up there, we did open up nominations back in August for the entire month of August. It was posted on Facebook. We put it on Nextdoor. We did get 7 nominations. 2 people, including myself and Charles, opted to not rerun in our capacity as a trustee or the president. So as it turns out, we have 5 trustees up for election. Their names are up there, and then 5 individuals. So I'm going to turn it over to Mo. If you all have any questions.
So Tim said everything I was going to say because he's like that. But truly, we do have, we've got 5 spots. We have 5 folks that we're willing, we're forced to, we're willing to run. In that situation, there's not a vote to be held because it's kind of a wash. Unless somebody has some really horrific reason for someone not to join. What would we do? It's called by attestation. So, those of us that have, the 5 of us that have agreed to join the board, and the rest of the board, we're all going to kind of go out in the hallway. We kind of decide amongst ourselves, since the president is no longer going to be joining us, which one of the trustees will take the president's spot. I believe everybody else is still where they should be, right? It's just you and Charles. So yeah, so we'll decide that amongst ourselves. But I mean, do you guys have any questions as to how this works? I mean, if there was like more than 5 people, we'd have an election. But 5 are leaving and 5 are joining, so there's no point to it. Yes? All right, so if I can get everybody to join, except for Tim, because we don't care about you anymore, and Charles. I care deeply about Charles. All right, except for Tim and Charles, if everyone else can join me in the hallway, that'd be fantastic. Who's a trustee?
Yeah, not everyone, just the people that are, just the 5. I know the rest of you all want to get out of here, right? Oh, hey, don't forget the meeting's not over, by the way. There are cards up here if you really want to learn more about the I-275 project. But no, I knew this was going to happen. So I thought that it would be a good time to do some fun stuff while they're out of the room. So Theo, if you want to come up. Theo, I think I met Theo over the phone. Come on up. So Theo volunteered after I asked her 3 times, please, 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 we need a green space committee chair. So Theo's done a phenomenal job. I had no idea what kind of a wonderful organizer, coordinator Theo is. She's also a realtor, which we recognized last time we met. But she's got a series of slides. And at the end, we have an ask of all of you. So I'm going to turn my mic off and I'm going to let you do talking and I'll flip charts for you.
Well, hi, everyone. I guess we still have a few left in the room. So I'm Theo, again, the Green Space Chair. And where we started back on August 31st, kind of reorganizing Green Space, is the far left. And I was asking those questions of myself and everyone else. Do you crave a clean neighborhood? Do you prize nature in Seminole Heights? And do you love colorful public artwork? Well, we do too. So that's kind of was the overarching approach that I had. And then as we move towards our agenda on the 31st, you can see we created a mission of 3 areas that correspond to each of those. First, to clean more spaces. Second, to grow more beauty. And 3, to paint more artwork. And we can't do all of them at once, of course. So we decided to focus on the first one, which is clean more spaces. Because, you know, thinking about why would you want to decorate when things are kind of dirty and cluttered with litter and all of that. So that's where we're focusing now. So if we could go to the next one. And I started with these down on the bottom, the Litter Buster Bash, Litter Buster Boot Camp, and Adopt a Block campaign. And then Tim came along and said, oh no, but we can't just do this as for Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. We have to have something for the whole city of Tampa to get involved in. So he called it, up there at the top, Tampa Trash Task Force. Try and say that fast about 4 times. I can't do it. But anyway, Tampa Trash Task Force, T3F, he's calling it. So we see that as the umbrella over the neighborhood associations. And we have made inroads with some people in the city. The mayor is very interested in what we're doing, and Janelle McGregor, and is that right? Yeah, Janelle McGregor, and she's from the neighborhood interaction kind of committee. So she's also on board and wants to work with us. So this might spread further. But anyway, that's how Tim sees it. The umbrella with the city working with the neighborhoods and then us underneath. So the Litter Buster Bash is there, you see on the right. That's our first big project. So it's really just going out and picking up other people's junk, but we're trying to make it fun. So that's our first one. You see, it's November 5th, Saturday morning. So it's coming right up, 2 weeks from this past Saturday. We hope we have a beautiful day. And we're starting, you see, from Lowry Park boat ramp, because Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful suggested that that's the best place to meet. It's easy for people to find. And so I took their advice. And so we're meeting there, and then we'll walk from there down Sly Avenue to I-275 exit and back. And we're going to pick up trash, and we'll have bags and gloves and all the tools that you need. So from 8 to 11 in the morning, and you see we're going to provide light snacks and water when everybody gets back. You don't want to be carrying it with you probably. And the zoo, Tampa, we're so excited. They provided 75 free daytime passes, one per family, for the first 75 registrants. And 2 weeks ago, we had 81 registrants that keep Tampa Bay beautiful. So it's crazy. People want to go pick up trash on a Saturday morning. But anyway, so we're going to do that. And then the city is going to have a special appearance of the litter skimmer. If anyone has read about that, they spent $750,000, almost $1 million, on this boat that skims Hillsborough River and picks up trash. So it's a wonderful concept. I've not seen it, but we're going to have an appearance of it, and I hope they stay there for a while at the boat ramp so that we can see the litter skimmer. They're very proud of it. So we have those sponsors, and you can go to the next slide.
Okay, let me jump in real quick. So I got the military thing going on. T3F is easy for me to say. Tampa Trash Task Force. I know Theo has a hard time with it. I came up with that because the mayor, when she was going through her election cycle, she said, one of my priorities is trash. Tampa has got too much trash. And I'm like, Jane, you've been in office for how long? Let's go, right? You have not done enough. I'm not going to say anything, enough. She has a tagline, transforming Tampa's tomorrow. And she calls it T3. And I'm like, okay, well, Jane, if you've got T3, let's just add the force behind the concept. And I will tell you, I thought this isn't going to go anywhere. Theo and Jane, right? That's first name basis now, are on the phone with each other talking about this, getting the staff behind it. I know Alan's talking about wants to get on city council. We have somebody here who's the spouse of a city council person. City council Thursday had 2 agenda items talking about trash. So one is $100,000 study to figure out where the hot spots are. And then the other one, somebody help me out. I forget what the other topic. The marketing piece of it, right? So finally, we are getting some movement. So it's not just Old Seminole Heights, because I don't want to drive over to Hyde Park or to Riverside Heights and have trash all over the place. We've got 89 neighborhood associations. If we all work together under the city's leadership, this could actually happen. So they are doing things like spending almost $1 million on the litter skimmer.
So we hope some of you will come out for the Litter Buster Bash. We need some more volunteers to help check people in, to give them their stuff that morning. So if you're an early bird. And this is what I'm really excited about also, the Litter Buster Boot Camp, Be a Hero. So we started thinking, it's great to pick up trash. It's fun. Yeah, people should do their own, but they don't. But what can we do to prevent it was the whole idea. And so we came up with this idea of an animated video for kids of all areas, of all ages, and created by OSHNA Green Space and Comrades. And it's going to be a story. Right now, it seems to be about a young boy and girl, a cute stray puppy, and a sad mama manatee, all with the dream to end litter. So we hope that it'll be done into 2023. I mean, early 23 is pretty zealous, but we'll see what we do. And it'll be in Tampa. We want to clean up by 99.9%. And I know that's pretty zealous too. And we're going to do it through partners, students, and volunteers. And I have a university in mind to help us create the animated video. So it'll have music and all kinds of things. And we want the kids to be able to get a medal if they participate, just like an Olympic medal, and they'll get a certificate and so forth. So the premise is that we can win over little people who in turn win over big people. Kids, if they get excited about something and they get passionate, if they see their dad throw a McDonald's bag out the window of the car and they've been touched by this video, maybe they'll say, Dad, we shouldn't do that. We can have an impact on one another. So we hope that that will prevent. It feels good to do good. And then the Adopt a Block campaign, this will be with the city. We're proposing that, and they're already interested. The ABC grid would be, we'd have volunteer block captains who patrol and pick up litter and who are rewarded somehow. So if you think of it, it's kind of like the Adopt a Road concept that companies do. They commit to keep a stretch of road clean. Well, it seems to me that people would be interested in keeping just their block clean. They don't have to do like a mile or anything, just a block. So we hope that we can get that grid set up with the city, and then, it would really spread from there. If every neighborhood were set up in a grid in the city, they could sign up at the city, it might really make a difference. So Tim, I don't know if you have that last one. We're recruiting volunteers. We need more worker bees. So right here, if you want to help on the Green Space Committee, just remember greenspace at oldseminoleheights.org. That's the easiest way. And then I would call you back. And so we have a Zoom, like a 30-minute Zoom meeting tomorrow night. And if you want to join us, just let me know. So it starts at 7. Usually we're going to be at 6:30, but just 30 minutes to kind of do last minute planning of the litter buster bash. So that's all I have to say. Was that too long?
Okay, thank you. I know a number of you were at the Northeast Seminole Heights Neighborhood Watch meeting on Saturday or Sunday? Sunday. So Sunday, I've asked Theo to work closely with Rod Hatch, who's doing a phenomenal job up there. And I know that group has taken Sly east of the interstate. So what we're trying to do is complement that effort and go west of the interstate. And if you think about it, it's a gateway to the zoo. And when we approached the zoo, when Theo approached the zoo and said, we have people that come from all over the state to go to that Zoo Tampa. And it's pretty sad when they get off of I-275 at the Sly exit, and the first thing they see is what they see. So it's fantastic that Rod and his group is working on that. And this group is going to work the other direction. So I'm very excited about it. The video that Theo talked about, we're hoping to get with the help of Alyssa. She's in the back. So Alyssa and Theo talked about forming up together to work on the next county's mini grant. It's a $5,000 grant. We have been successful the last, maybe 6 or 7 years to get that grant every single year. You'll remember we used it for the OSHNA app. We used it last year. Alyssa was the lead for that, to get those 5 little libraries put into most of our parks, or a number of our parks. So we're hoping to get a $5,000 grant that'll underwrite the cost of the video. And for those who know Rod Hatch, it's all about the manatees. That's the tagline that he uses when he goes to city council and when he talks to the mayor. And that's why, part of the reason why Theo wanted to rope in the sad manatee into the video. So hopefully, we get the little people on board. And as she said, she'll get the big people on board. Okay, finally a win. This is finally exciting news. The road at the top is Henry and Ola. So this is Henry Ola Park, part of it anyway. There was a survey done a number of years ago. They asked, what could we get as amenities added to the Henry Ola Park? A dog park is going to be added, as well as, we hope, a walking trail around the entire perimeter of the park. We haven't heard about the walking trail yet, but they did commit to doing the dog park, and now they're asking for our input to refine it. So I know this is not a great chart. Again, the parking lot is at the very top under the word space. So if you're familiar with where the park is, again, that's Henry, the big parking lot, and then that's where they're looking at putting in the dog park. This is the entirety of the dog park. I wish they'd given us something that was zoomed out a little bit. So initially people thought it's just that little section at the top there. That's just artificial turf. If anybody's been to a dog park, the entry always turns into a dirt mud pit very quickly because that's where all the dogs are coming in and out. They're greeting other dogs, they're scratching. So they are continuing to upgrade the dog parks as they go forward. So that's great news for the folks that have pets. Mauricio's been working on this for, I think, about 12 years now. And so it's finally happening. Upcoming calendar. So if you want to tuck a few things into your phone right now, and then I'm going to have Mo come back and announce who was named into the officer position. So Tribe, our partner up at the corner of Hannah and Central, they have their annual Tribe Spooky Stroll. It is a registration required event. So they've already sold out all the 6:30 events. You were specifically asked for, Michael, to wear your T-Rex costume. So please go talk to you know who. She asked me again today. I told her I'd ask. I'm specifically wearing this because if you haven't been to the pumpkin patch, go support Hampton Terrace. They've got 1 million pumpkins. They literally sold an entire semi-truck full of pumpkins, and they got a second half semi-truck load of pumpkins up there. So go buy a few pumpkins and help them out. They do great stuff in their area. Theo already talked about the Litter Bash. Debbie Johnson, our former president, she's running the River Tower Festival, Sulphur Springs Park. That's coming up on November 12th. Do we have anything we want to announce, Mo or Jeffrey, on that? Still looking for volunteers to help run the parking lot, Michael. Oh, you already asked him. Okay, since you're out of the country, we'll let you slide. Michael's very good with the parking, so we do need volunteers for that. And then our holiday party, we finally nailed it down. It's going to be at the Corner Club, which is at the corner of Sly and 15th Street. If you have not been there, Jen Allen, is that her name? Jenny Susan? Yes? Jenny Armstrong. Jenny Armstrong took over the Corner Club, I don't know, 2 years ago. If you have not been there, it is fantastic. Excellent food, great breakfast. You will be very surprised. If you were ever in the Corner Club, say 10 years ago, and you had to wear a mask because of all the nicotine, it's amazing. You walk in there now and you don't smell cigarettes. It's terrific. We've had a few meetings there. Still looking for volunteers. Mo, if you want to start working your way up here. Mo. Oh, I also wanted to make one announcement. Can we announce Rachel? Can we finally announce? Okay, so Rachel is our 2022 Volunteer of the Year. We've been trying to give her the award, but unfortunately on these nights, she's often not available. So she's working or doing whatever.
To be fair, she's an accountant, and October 15th was a deadline for the late filers. So she's still dealing with the late filers. So she couldn't quite make it.
But if you see her at the holiday party, thank her for all the hard work she's done. She's been done yeoman's work for especially the porch parties.
Okay, can you bring the slide back with the faces and the names? And then while he's doing that, just another plug for volunteers for River Tower Festival. I'm still looking for people to help me shut it down, and for folks to work that last shift. If you say the right words, I might put you on beer sales for the last shift. Just saying. All right, thank you. So thanks, guys. So we've gone back and we have discussed it. So Tim Burke will be our new OSHNA president. Woo! Jeffrey, Michael, everybody else is staying the same. And I'm not anything other than a trustee. No, Alyssa's vice president. No, Jeffrey's treasurer. I'll do the membership chair still. All right, is that it? Any questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
I just talking about it. Saturday we are cleaning up Nebraska Avenue from the river down to Sly, which keeps Tampa Bay beautiful, our northeast of the Heights. And on the 12th, unfortunately, in the morning we will also be cleaning up Sly Avenue, meeting at the Corner Club at 8:30. And this is what our neighborhood's been doing for like 10 years now. So always love more volunteers coming in. Felix, 16 people. You don't clean up the whole 2 miles, we break it up, so everybody only gets a part of that. So it takes about an hour, hour and a half to do it.
Thank you, Susan.
All right, well, again, congratulations to the new board. Any questions for me? Or no? Okay. All right, well, thank you again for coming. Oh, we do have one question.
I wasn't quite prepared to make the full announcement tonight or anything like that, but like Alan, I decided to run for city council. I'm running for city council District 2 citywide. The reason I'm a little late doing it because I just retired from the Navy on 1 October after 36 years. I did, grow up in Tampa. I went to Chamberlain High School. Just putting it out there. I've seen a lot of things, and like Alan said, with regard to things kind of going wrong within the city council membership and everything, and that's the reason I decided to throw my hat in the ring. I think I got a lot to bring from my Navy career. Just leaving so confident, like I said, on the 1st of October. So I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate you guys' time and help. Kevin Hughes. Sorry.
Hey, that's exciting, Kevin. 36 years. Wow. That's a long time in the Navy. How about giving it up for Kevin, 36 years in the Navy?
My name is Michelle Vigil, and I am closing down the street on Highland Avenue between Jean and Fern on Halloween from 6 o'clock till 10 p.m. And there's going to be a ton of signs and everything, but it's for the trick-or-treaters. So it's not like for all the stuff you guys were talking about earlier, it's just for fun. So if anybody wants to attend and you want a safe place for your kids to come by on Halloween to get, we're going to have a shit ton of candy. And I'm going to be dressed up as like one of those FDOT people and, making sure that everybody is safe. So just letting you guys know. So. Oh, no.
No, come on, it's fun. Hey, that's awesome. There are a lot of Halloween events going on. So yeah, just be careful with the kids. It's Monday night. So again, Tribe is on the 29th. So if you've got little ones, Spooky Stroll is a blast. But yeah, have a great time on Halloween and thanks for coming out tonight.